Hi, my name is ShternN, and today I'm going to be presenting the Prince Classic. I'm going to start with a timeline of tennis rackets and strings. In 1874, Major C. Wingfield had the idea of the game we now know as tennis. His first racket was made of wood and originally had outer sheep intestine as the string material. The following year, he had arranged with Pierre Babolat, a musical instrument string maker at the time, to help him create strings for his invention. Fast forward almost 70 years, cow serosa, or cow tissue, was starting to become popular as string material because of the lack of sheep during World War II. Later, the lack of cattle made serosa even more expensive and tennis a luxurious sport. In 1947, the famous tennis player René Lacoste made his own laminated wood racket. Later on in 1968, the T200 was brought into the market as the first steel racket by Wilson. The following years, synthetic gum was starting to be used as a more affordable option to animal serosa, considering it's also bounded the same. In 1976, Prince made their first racket a well-known debut, considering it was the first oversized racket made of aluminium. In 1980, a new body material was being brought into the market, graphite, by Dunlop. Graphite was being used in only aerospace industry at the time, so it caught a lot of people's attention. The Wilson hammer came in the 90s with a wider body and a heavier head in order to give an extra power boost. In order to improve racket speed, Prince created a racket with larger string holes called O3 technology. And last but not least, with the same inventor as it started, comes the Babolat Smart Racket, featuring a chip that records the power in shots, time played, and other statistics. Moving on, let's focus on the Prince Classic. It was released in 1976 by Prince Sports and was advertised in our commercial as the most successful racket in tennis history. It was created by Howard Head, who discovered while playing tennis that the rackets have many defects and decided to correct them. He started by enlarging the racket's head and by making the frame out of aluminium. The oversized racket head trend went on to become the basic for tennis rackets now. Why? I'll explain the science behind it right now. The place where the ball should be aimed towards is the middle of the string bed, otherwise known as the sweet spot. The logic goes as follows. The bigger the string bed, the bigger the sweet spot, because the bigger the middle of the string bed. Head had the revolutionary idea of making tennis easier to play with by just making the tennis head bigger and also lighter by using aluminium instead of steel as the frame's material. The reason why tennis rackets wouldn't have just been built with big heads because of the original material, laminated wood. Laminated wood couldn't hold the tension of the strings and be flexible at the same time if the head was bigger than it originally was designed. Metals such as steel and aluminium are sturdy enough to hold the strings and be flexible. Now I probably have you wondering about string tension. Low string tension gives more power to the player because they stretch more during a hit, storing energy. When the ball bounces off the racket, the energy is let go with the ball. It's kind of like inhaling and exhaling. Or like a catapult, the energy is held and then let go with the ball. A high string tension has more sides to it. It gives more spin but has less control because of 4 variables: spin, string movement, impact dwell time, and distance ball traveled across the strings. Spin. The strings bite the ball, create more friction by increasing the distance between the ball and the racket for the ball to sink into. String movement influences the location where the ball leaves the racket because of more movement that deforms the strings when the ball hits the string bed. Dwell time and time traveled across the strings. When the ball stays longer on the strings, it will travel further on the string bed and twist the racket even just a slight bit in your hand, which means the ball might hit the frame and bounce randomly. Higher tension reduces the dwell time, which means the ball travels further. Onwards, the benefits of the Prince Classic were many, while the limitations not really. Since the oversized head had a bigger sweet spot and the aluminum makes the racket lighter, it's easier for younger players or people that aren't in such good athletic shape to learn and to play tennis. On the downside, there was an argument in regards to who really did make the first oversized racket in between us and the racket brand Weed, but the story didn't hit the press, so there wasn't a big deal over it. In the near future, I am sure that even bigger racket heads will be invented, and if not used in professional tennis, then for beginner players to either learn on or to practice on. I also think that we will be continuing the work on our O3 model and on TechStream rackets that just appeared in 2015. They are made of a special carbon fiber fabric that increases stability and revolutionizes the hitting feeling. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something about the revolutionary Prince Classic today.